Hello everyone! My analytical presentation today is about Margaret Thatcher and Euroscepticism. To start with, I'm gonna talk about Euroscepticism. So what is the definition of Euroscepticism? Euroscepticism, also known as European Union skepticism, is criticism of or opposition to the European Union. Traditionally, the main source of Euroscepticism has been the notion that integration weakens the nation state, and the desire to slow, halt, or reverse integration within the European Union. Other views often held by Eurosceptics include perceptions of a democratic deficit in the European Union or a belief that it is too bureaucratic. Euroscepticism should not be confused with anti-Europeanism, which refers to the rejection of the culture of Europe and Europeanization, and sentiments, opinions, and discrimination against European ethnic groups. A Eurobarometer survey of European Union citizens in 2009 showed that support for membership of the European Union was lowest in Latvia, the United Kingdom, and Hungary. Euroscepticism is found in political parties across the political spectrum. However, the rise in radical right-wing parties in Europe is strongly linked to a rise of Euroscepticism in the continent. Euroscepticism in Europe lately, public opinion on European Union membership in or out. So as we could see in this graphic, the United Kingdom is, among all the European countries actually, the most Eurosceptic one, in comparison here with France and Germany. And this because of many identity, democracy, financial and historical issues. Euroscepticism in the United Kingdom. The European unity movement as a political project after 1945 was supported and inspired by important British voices. For example, Winston Churchill pledged in his 1946 Zurich speech for a kind of United States of Europe, led by France and Germany, but did not intend to involve Britain. The ambivalent position of British politics and citizens has been described as wishing to seem an important part of Europe without being a part of it. The othering of European unity as a continental issue and somebody else's problem has been rather strong. Pro-European British politicians and citizens have faced various defeats and humiliations with regard to Britain's steps in the direction of increased European integration. Even parties like the Liberal Democrats, with an outspoken pro-European platform, have members that share the British lack of enthusiasm of all things European. After joining the European Union, confrontational attitudes of British politicians, as in the United Kingdom rebate controversy, which we're going to analyze later on, gained further popularity among the British public, and many Britons feel a much stronger affection for the Commonwealth of Nations than they ever have for the European Union. Margaret Thatcher and Euroscepticism. We'll move now to a main point of the subject, the role of Margaret Thatcher in the reinforcement or not of Euroscepticism. Margaret Thatcher had campaigned to stay in the EEC, European Economic Community, in 1975, 4 years before becoming Prime Minister, and signed the Single European Act in 1986. But she came to despair of the European project. Her Bruges speech of 1988 became a template for a new generation of skeptics. It was not given to put the country on course for an exit, but to limit Europe's ambitions. She said, to try to suppress nationhood and concentrate power at the center of a European conglomerate would be highly damaging and would jeopardize the objectives we seek to achieve. Tory Eurosceptics were inspired. Increasingly, they believed the original vision of a trading area had been supplanted by Franco-German ambitions for political and economic union. As the center of gravity shifted in both main parties, Labour under Neil Kinnock embraced a social Europe, with resistance from unions and the left. Thatcher's increasingly strident scepticism put her at odds with key members of her cabinet, including Michael Heseltine, and hastened her downfall. Let's take a look now at a famous video of Margaret Thatcher entitled "We Want Our Money Back."
My first visit to Strasbourg, too.
From the first, she saw it as a bureaucratic monolith and warned that Britain had been a soft touch for too long.
We weren't getting a fair deal on the budget, and I wasn't going to have it. There's a great strand of equity and fairness in the British people. This is our characteristic. There's not a strand of equity or fairness in Europe. It's they're out to get as much as they can. That's one of those enormous differences. So I tackled it on that basis, because if things went on as they were, we were going to pay the largest single contribution to Europe of the lot.
The Prime Minister demanded that the community should give Britain a £1 billion rebate and refused to countenance a penny less. The 1979 Dublin summit exposed the stunned European leaders to the full force of the Thatcher negotiating style.
It's that £1,000 million on which we started to negotiate, because we want the greater part back. But it's not asking the community for money, it is asking the community to have our own money back.
So basically, this video describes the 1984 British rebate in which Margaret Thatcher, with her usual ability of persuasion, more ferocious than ever, firmly debated with Europe to give the UK back its money, as she said. Effectively, Margaret Thatcher managed, through this financial mechanism, to reduce the UK's contribution to the European Union by approximately 66%, and this since 1985. Margaret Thatcher's letter. A private letter written by Margaret Thatcher reveals she would have campaigned to leave the European Union, according to the Eurosceptics Conservative Prime Minister who has released the note. Sir Bill Cash, Prime Minister, has revealed the private correspondence he had with the former Prime Minister, in which she describes the European Union project as contrary to British interests and damaging to our parliamentary democracy. He says it is inconceivable Lady Thatcher would have supported David Cameron's current deal, and that she gave him the letter to make public if there was ever any doubt over her views on the European Union. She said word by word, "I understand it is being suggested in some quarters that I would have agreed to the Maastricht Treaty. May I make it clear that I would not have done so." Thatcher not completely Eurosceptic? Britain does not dream of some cozy, isolated existence on the fringes of the European community. Our destiny is in Europe as part of the community. The European community is a practical means by which Europe can ensure the future prosperity and security of its people in a world in which there are many other powerful nations and groups of nations. Believe it or not, that is exactly what Margaret Thatcher said, asserted, and claimed in 1988 in her Bruges speech. So clearly, Margaret Thatcher was not utterly against the European Union, and she proved that several times. She has agreed on many points with the European Union, but disagreed on other plans, namely the contributions of the UK in European Union, as we saw it in the last video. Nowadays, a recent speech In a recent speech, the Prime Minister of the UK, Cameron, spoke openly for a referendum